What's up, guys? This is Jeremy Vanderloop again with our Let's Get Coffee podcast here at CRES, our flagship location in Tampa, Florida. It's our episode number 2. I think Matt called it the inaugural episode was the first one. What do you call a second episode? Inaugural number 2? Because we're still trying to figure this stuff out.
The deuce.
Yeah. So this is my good friend, David Ney. David Ney is pretty awesome. You actually have the reputation around here that you were the very first member of CRES.
That's what they said. I guess I was the first one that...
Number 1. You were the first one, period. Yeah, very first. We still had drywall dust up, and you're like, no, here, I'm joining right now. And that's what I love about you. You are a great visionary. You carry an amazing heart, and just talented guy all around. And so that's the whole point of these podcasts is just to get together with guys in our community and that are doing really cool things and just really try to learn from each other and just to let our viewers and listeners really learn from who you are. And a lot of times, most of the time, a lot of our members, especially a guy like you, who's like one of our founding members, you guys are so busy out doing stuff that a lot of times you're not focusing on the platform of influence to, and you got a lot of wisdom, nuggets of wisdom and different things that I've learned from you, and just, I've been pretty, you've been instrumental in different parts of my life, and so you love cigars. I do know that.
Yeah, so they're seasonal for me, though. I'll preface it. Like, I can't, this is the time of the year where, cigars are a little more enjoyable, especially when you can be outside.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm kind of coming back into it.
Yep, absolutely. So I can't hardly smoke a cigar anymore, though. Yeah. It messes with my breathing too much now. So, all right, but this is not a podcast about cigars. This is a podcast
we don't inhale,
about you. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. I don't know, but definitely not healthy for me. I'll tell you that. So it's we're all about a space for all of our health. So I have simply cut that out for now. My wife is grateful that I have. Wives don't like that for whatever reason.
No, it stinks. Stinky kisses when you get back.
Yeah, I don't think, Brittany's like, no way, not till you brush your teeth 17 times. Yeah. All right, so diving into this, David, introduce yourself. What do you do? Who are you? What do you do for fun? What do you do for work? Let's just start with that.
Sure.
Who are you? What do you do for work?
Well, again, my name's David Ney. I'm a Tampa resident since 2012. And prior to that, I grew up in my formative years in Indianapolis, Indiana, so Midwesterner, and hopefully all those good values that we're supposed to have. But yeah, from a professional standpoint, since 2017, I've been, an executive recruiter within specific industry around payment processing, and fintech is the broad category. But any company that's moving money electronically, there's a lot of hands in the process.
What type of executive? Like, what does that mean to be an executive recruiter?
Well, I guess it probably means a lot of different things. I work on any type of position that a company within my industry needs help with hiring, from probably a senior level salesperson all the way up to COO and everything in between. So I think executive recruitment just defines more. I'm helping companies fill jobs instead of do like staffing or contract work.
Yeah. So it's like decision makers and high level guys.
Yeah, for the most part. There's there's a big mix in terms of people's roles.
And I use the term guys. Obviously, that can be men or women, but it's just the part of my thing. I don't know. That's offended some people at times. Like, I just didn't. I mean, everybody. When I say that, but
I think executive search just probably more career experience. These aren't entry level positions. They're more.
I think we have to get up on our mics a little bit more. I keep hearing your voice fade out. I don't know.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. This couch was a good idea for hanging out and leisure, but I think I need to put the other booms on this thing to get a little bit closer. So, but we're good. We're still learning this stuff. So you're an executive headhunter?
I'm a headhunter. So I own a business. My clients are companies within the financial technology industry, here in the U.S. and overseas. Is that cutting in and out? Sorry.
I think it is.
But, overall, I find companies that need help hiring that are willing to pay me to help them fill jobs, and then I go out and find people that they're looking for. So
What's the greatest frustration in today's economic climate? I mean, it's November 16th, 2022. They're talking about, major tech layoffs, all these things, and you're in kind of the technology space of recruiting, right? Anyone that moves money. What's the kind of the greatest frustration right now that you're seeing, especially as a headhunter? I mean, I'm sure you've just got pretty busy, right? Have you had multiple executive C-level guys that have gotten laid off that are now looking?
Ideal busy for me is companies are hiring so fast that they can't keep up and they need help. You can also be busy by having a lot of people that, like you said, might have lost a job or are starting to look for something different, that are asking you for help. So the best way to define what I do is I find people for jobs, not jobs for people.
Got it. So have you seen like your clients, has it kind of dripped a little bit? Because I've heard, and the reason I'll preface this question, and then I just read an article, even I think it was this morning, that was it Facebook laid off 1,500 people.
Yeah.
Twitter just did that thing with Elon. But I also was reading this thing but there's more jobs posting from higher tech, like these smaller tech guys. They're spending more money in tech right now, and they're basically, so there's two ways to look at it. They're like, wow, we just got a massive talent pool that we can now grab from. So now they're like, let's grab them while we can. What are you personally experiencing being in that industry?
Yep. So what you just said is completely appropriate in terms of one of the jobs I'm working on right now. I'd say during COVID things kind of paused, but right out of COVID, anything e-commerce, online purchasing related, those companies, especially the larger ones, started raising money, or continued raising money, and really hired aggressively through the latter part of 2020 and all of 2021 and first half of this year. So the companies that are laying off, I would say in our industry, Stripe is a big one. So Stripe.
Yeah, we use Stripe. Yeah,
you guys use Stripe. So they let off about 14% of their workforce, I think 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And then you saw that elsewhere with Facebook and Twitter. But essentially, yeah, the larger companies that overhired because they had a lot of cash and a lot of momentum in the market. Now those guys are kind of constricting a little bit with the layoffs, but there's still a lot of mid-sized companies that are continuing to grow.
So I think really like principles are few and never change. They're eternal. Methods are many and change regularly. And so I think principles, they kind of jump industries, right? So I'm obviously, I'm in real estate. Before that was in the music industry. And talking about you, not about me, but we've noticed like there was this giant push of people raising. Interest rates were low. And so we've seen a recoil in the market, and we knew it was going to be like a light switch. So we'd started planning and prepping to not be in this position. So we're in a good spot now. I don't have a whole lot of inventory. I think we have one that we're trying to finish, and I'm not super nervous about it. But I know a lot of guys are hurting because the market's now recoiled. We're estimating about a 10% recoil in the urban core right now. But a lot of that had to do with there was just so much money and cheap money that these guys were just jumping. So it's really hard to see what the real value of the market and the economy was, because it was just shooting for the stars. And so it was a very similar experience then in the tech world. These guys just, hey, let's get it when the getting's good. Let's make hay in the sunshine. And now they're like, all right, let's cut it.
Yeah.
And so
they're just preparing for, a potential recession. I think we're basically there. But
yeah.
2023.
We are for sure. We were planning a recession in March of last year or this year. And so for me, it was like understanding these markets as a young guy, right? Was really important, but listening to these older guys. So that's kind of what I'd love, just to glean wisdom from what you're seeing in the headhunting executive tech space for specifically financial tech. I mean, what do you think is going to happen in the tech world with processing money? Have you gotten into like NFTs and crypto and some of those spaces, or?
I mean, I've been a spectator, and especially the last couple of weeks, it's had a lot of people reach out and said I went from kind of traditional payments to went to a more crypto environment, and one guy that screwed everything up for everybody. The ripple effect, of course, financially with FTX, has hurt a lot of people, but there's a lot of companies that are going under now because.
Well, walk through that. So what is for those of us that don't know what that is, FTX and those type of things, like what happened in that market of digital currency and that whole space?
It's kind of complicated. I'm not an expert in it by any means, but essentially you had a company that, if you parallel it with traditional banking services around cash, banks want deposits. Banks will offer you lines of credit, offer you, mortgages, credit cards, different services. Well, FTX's main platform provided similar type of banking services, but instead of cash deposits, they were taking, cryptocurrency deposits.
Okay.
And then in addition to, providing those types of services where people could park their money with FTX, and then they would, offer them lines of credit to borrow against it. FTX launched their own cryptocurrency. And from what I understand is, the fraud was around using people's crypto deposits for their own business purposes. And essentially inflating
Ponzi scheme.
That's what everybody says, Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is, yeah.
Right. So the guy went down.
That impacted the entire global market of crypto. Yep. Dang.
And any company that had any ties.
Do they have access to this guy, or is he gone?
He's in the Bahamas, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a huge.
I mean,
you can go conspiracy theory on this because a lot of people have, but a lot of the money that the U.S. was giving to Ukraine throughout the last 12 months, a lot of somehow Ukraine had extra money that they needed to invest, and they invested a significant amount of it into FTX, and FTX was outside of George Soros was the second. Sam Bankman-Fried was the second highest Democratic donor.
Wow.
So you talk about money laundering too, right? So
yeah. It's I was not expecting. That's what I love about like podcasts and our CRES chats. And, I mean, they just flow, and it's so much fun because I didn't know you even knew much about that stuff. You know way more about this stuff than I do. I'm like hearing about it for the first time right now. I'm sure a lot of people are that way.
When you think about this, everybody knows Bernie Madoff. Everybody knows Enron. You think about these big corporate scandals, right? Well, this scandal is bigger than Madoff.
Wow. Okay.
So you'll probably see something on Netflix. Somebody will do a documentary on it.
Yeah.
That'll be coming soon. So,
but you're this is kind of like your world though, in a little bit because
less crypto, more traditional.
But you have to understand kind of what's going on in the tech space, and I guess that's kind of where that came from. That question is you're in the tech space for recruiting, so you recruit tech executives specifically niche down in the financial sectors.
Yeah. So anything you think about fintech, it's really the digitization of money.
Yeah.
Right. So there's digital services now.
And you're really good at this.
I'm
saying you're really. I've watched you do this, and you're very good at it. And it's been a year since you've been on your own.
Yeah, a long time.
How's that first year going, man?
A lot of learning for sure.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think I forget who said it. I don't know. Forgive me for not quoting this, but it says most people over-expect what they can do in a year and totally underestimate what they can do in 3.
Yeah.
So
there's multiple ways of saying that.
But that was totally me, right? I came in with some aggressive goals, and I think in Luke 14 it says count the cost, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna do something, count the cost.
Well,
I didn't.
Quick question: how'd you do compared to just working for somebody else?
I mean,
if you're comparing, like you're competing against yourself, you're working for yourself.
Yeah, total production was probably compared to last year compared to my last year working with somebody else was probably down 25%. Not bad, but
it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
If you had the top 3 takeaways from going from working at a high, you were doing really well working for somebody else doing this exact same thing, to now working for yourself in your first year. By the way, to only lose 25% of your revenue working for yourself in your first year. Every time I've started a company, I think I'm on my 3rd company now. The first year, I'm losing money. I'm not profitable at all. I'm not making anything. It's all just grinding and crawling and be like, okay, that hurt. How do I get this up off the ground? And you don't even start producing revenue, like significant profits, till like year 3. And so if you'd only be down 25% is actually a huge thing. I'm just being honest with you. Like it's because there's just a lot of learning curve. And so I think you're in a good space by that. But if you were to tell somebody, being a successful startup now within a year as a solopreneur, because you don't have any employees, right? It's just you. Mm-hmm. So what are your top 3 takeaways that you would give, your top 3 highlights and learns? of being self-employed for the last year?
Yeah, and I don't know if this is any particular rank order, but the first thing for me specifically, most of the battles were in my own head.
Okay.
I read there's a book by a guy named Stephen Pressfield called the War of Art.
Okay.
So any type of creative, entrepreneurial, any type of endeavor that any of us take on that requires us to change, or requires us to take on a goal of going from where we're at to a better spot, right? Improving ourselves, starting. He was a screenwriter in Hollywood, so he related a lot of this to the writer's block. But at any rate, I think the big takeaway with that book is he talks about the resistance being this this thing in our minds that all of us face about ultimately leading to procrastination. So to talk about a takeaway, self-discipline is huge, and the way we talk to ourselves is huge, because there's a roller coaster. Sometimes
Absolutely.
you're riding high, sometimes you're not. But I think for me, going out on my own, there's nobody I was accountable to other than my home and my family. But being on my own, being independent, and not having a lot of structure or self-discipline, that led me to kind of go on a little roller coaster mentally of imposter syndrome. Am I even good at this?
A lot of that self-doubt, right? Some of those feedback loops that you come in. Sorry for this. My wife was calling and was on Do Not Disturb, and so it's like she calls twice, then it goes through. It's important, but it's okay. I've got it. We've got it. Yeah.
We can push pause.
No, we don't have to push pause. It was. Can you pick up the kids at this time? So family. We're family guys. This is what it is. But so I apologize though, because I know it's being filmed too, and I was like, "What's that guy doing on his phone?" Well, this guy's saying this really good deep takeaways. I was like, I'm listening, but I'm also prioritizing. Because someone, could, I don't know. We got 4 kids at home, so someone could be dying, or going to the hospital. You just never know. So you always have to take time to. That's kind of a rule that sometimes my wife. The emergency is not an emergency in my end, but it is on hers. So it's life. It's like if you call twice, then it's someone's dying. It's emergency. I'll answer every time or text you back. But it's a good rule, by the way, guys. Make sure you prioritize your wives and your kids, no matter what you're doing.
Right.
It's a little commercial there, right? Prioritize your wife and kids, even in the middle of a podcast. And if you're friends, they're going to forgive you for being rude because they understand what priorities are.
Yeah,
so,
we're
good. So you're talking about discipline, right? That is one of the greatest hurdles, period. And that's just one takeaway you've gotten, right?
It's a discipline and, the expectations you put on yourself.
Yeah, so there's two. So that's two. Yeah, so it's and so there's so many ways of this principle, right? So it's like people under-anticipate what they can do in a day, or they over-anticipate what they can do in a day, under-anticipate what they can do in a year. People under-anticipate what they can do, over-anticipate what they do in a year versus what they can do in 10 years. I love that you brought that up because that's basically our thing. I love, have you read the book Good to Great? Yeah. Jim Collins? Yeah. Man, it's like one of my favorite books. Probably one of my top 5 books is that book. And just their whole process of your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal, and all these things that you just want to be out there and just drive and be a purpose-driven entrepreneur, purpose-driven company, something that endures for multiple generations beyond you. But starting out that first year in that crawl stage, like the crawl, walk, run model, right, of business, is just the crawl stage. It just sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks money, it sucks energy, it sucks emotions and time, and you just have to have grit and willpower to make it out even in your first year, because you are your own worst enemy. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Like self-doubt, that whole am I this is an imposter syndrome, all that, man, was just like, I get it.
Yeah.
And I get it every day, even though I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. It's like, do I know what I'm doing? Everyone's looking for answers. I don't know what the answer is, right? You have that whole thing. And so but we're talking about discipline. Are you familiar with the 3 Ds of discipline? Have you heard of that?
I think you've said it once. I don't know.
Maybe. So you're talking, and it's so crucial because to be successful in any industry, in any part of your life, it takes disciplined people with disciplined thought, segueing into disciplined actions.
Yeah.
Right? And so those rhythms that you created to be successful, let's talk about some of those self-disciplines. You obviously had to discipline yourself to become a disciplined person, Then you had to discipline your thought, right?
Yeah.
Take control of the thought.
I would say,
and then discipline action.
I'm still in the working.
This is a journey, bro. You're never done.
Never done.
We'll be 85 and still having this conversation. Oh yeah, remember, man, I'm struggling with this discipline action right now. This discipline starts with just having the desire. I want to be disciplined, and I'm going to be disciplined in myself. I'm going to wake up for a morning routine. So let's talk about those 3 Ds that you've learned this year in that context. I mean, you're a disciplined person now. You have disciplined thought and you have disciplined actions.
Yeah.
There's always room to grow. But how have you seen yourself grow in the last year in those 3 Ds? Person, thought, action.
I think it's probably a little more awareness of who I am, and I think instead of like, I definitely don't feel like I'm an extremely disciplined person yet. But when it comes to knowing what I should do, I think
Let me ask you: are you more disciplined today than you were a year ago?
I think so.
Boom.
But incrementally.
Here's the deal.
We're not talking big.
We celebrate the 1% move, right? Yeah. Like what is the Todd father, right? He's speaking at the CRES chat tomorrow on mental health, achieving and maintaining a healthy mindset. Yeah. That dude's got a mindset about him, right? But he always talks about celebrating progress over perfection. And then that phrase has like caught wildfire recently. But we heard Todd talk about that years ago, talking about don't chase the horizon. It's always there. But it's celebrating your growth, taking the time to celebrate your progress and understanding that you're winning, right? James Clear on Atomic Habits talks about that. He talks about like that 1% movement daily, right? And so I want to encourage you that you are a disciplined person because you're more disciplined now, even if it's a 3-degree discipline change in the last year. You're disciplined, bro, and I've seen it. I've seen it, dude. I'm very proud of you and the discipline that you have in your life, man. It's awesome. I interrupted. I apologize. I have a bad habit of that.
It's all good, but I think when you're talking about
it's the ADD kicking in.
When you're talking about discipline, I think for me, from a work perspective, it's one of the things that I've learned and I'm continuing to battle is like don't wait till you feel good or motivated to do the act. Don't wait for the perfect environment, the perfect headspace before you
bro, that'll
pick up the phone and start calling or do the activities that have to get done. So for me, it's like committing to taking the action regardless of how I feel.
Oh, perfection is the killer of all things growth and innovation. I was talking to like one of my team members today, like dialoguing with you on that. Like, yo, get me to like 50%, give me 80%, and then move on it. Right. The only way you're going to learn is by just failing. Yeah. And you pick it up, right? Pick up the slack. So that's discipline you. How have you disciplined your thinking in the last year as a startup entrepreneur?
Well, in terms of, sometimes I feel like I'm a basket case, especially this past, I think.
Oh, thank God I'm not the only one.
I think going into this.
Oh, my gosh. I thought I was the only one.
I feel like I turned into a basket case going out on my own, but I've been up and down multiple points this year. Gosh. But discipline of thought, I think number one, committing to showing up. They say.
Oh man, that's a good one.
Good writers that have writer's block. It's not that they have a hard time writing. It's the hardest part is getting in the chair and starting to write, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like just doing the work and then allowing your activity to get you in a better frame of mind. But
just show up.
You got to at least show up, right? And it's just that's been the attitude this year. Just keep showing up, and if you do these things, if you do these 5 things today, you can wind down at 5 and know you did a good job today, regardless of what that's led to in terms of an outcome. So.
All right. So if we're people trying to get a takeaway, so your first one that you've learned, how have you been more disciplined as a person, disciplined person, in 1 word, 2 words or less?
Showing up and taking action.
Showing up, taking action, right? Yeah. And then in your thought, right? How has that translated into a tangible, actionable thought? Like, what do you have to think about to show up? What do you have to tell yourself?
It's a non-negotiable, I think. It's easy. When I wake up, having the thought of, man, I really don't have anything on my calendar till 10.
Yeah.
Therefore, do I need to show up before, 10 o'clock? Yeah, of course you do. There's stuff that you're gonna need to do, starting at 8:30, like a normal person.
Yeah.
So, I think the transition for me was I've always been accountable to somebody else. Being accountable to myself has been the learning.
Well, that's the beautiful thing of the two economies, right? Mm-hmm. That we learned about. Two economies is you're a W-2er, 9-to-5er.
Get paid to show up.
Get paid to show up, regardless of the results. Right. You're getting a paycheck. Con to that, that's a pro, right? You got a paycheck every other week, as long as you're not fired or laid off, True. Right? So there's a higher risk on that than I look at as an entrepreneur. No one has that over me. Only way, And so, but there's usually a cap, right? The W-2ers. I mean, there's only so much you can make as a W-2er. What's the highest paid W-2er that's not like a C-level executive? You think
probably a salesperson that's chasing big whale deals.
They're not even a W-2er.
I mean, they get a little base, but the majority.
So watch this. Yeah. So you just described somebody who's in the second economy.
Yeah.
They're the results economy. So sales guys aren't even the W-2ers. So take the sales guys out of it because they're actually in with the entrepreneurs and the results. Right? The only thing you're guaranteed over in this economy is you're guaranteed to not make any money if you stop moving, if you don't show up.
Right.
Over here, you're guaranteed all this stuff. So why on earth are you an entrepreneur? The cap, in my opinion, the cap for W-2ers is about $150,000 a year, which is a really good living. No commission based. It's just you're straight 9 to 5. I'm paying you for your time, and you're a software developer or something like that. Attorney. But even attorneys have these results based. Like if they don't show up and produce clients and hours and stuff like that, their billable hours. It's so even they're in a results driven, right? So you see anybody doing $250,000 or more, it is for sure in the second category of the economy of results based. There's sales and there's entrepreneurs. The thing that's most intriguing, why is somebody willing to jump into that results based economy that they're guaranteed to lose money if they stop moving versus the safety net of a W-2er?
I think the big appeal for me personally was, freedom, not having to answer anybody.
Okay.
But with, I guess the lesson to that is, freedom.
You still have to answer somebody.
Freedom doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, whenever you. I mean, you have to have some discipline built in there. But I think the other thing was, and especially in my world of recruiting, I saw that, based on the work that I was doing, I was giving up half of the revenue on every project I completed, and I figured if I can do the same work on my own, those expenses, are a fraction of what the cost would be. So at any rate, I wanted to keep more of the pie and just be independent and have some freedom. So
yeah,
I had the confidence after 4 years of working for somebody else that I could probably pull that off.
I definitely think one of the great myths that people believe about being an entrepreneur is that I'm an entrepreneur, so I have now this immense freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship. And the answer is you're 100% true to that. That is actually 100% accurate. Where the myth comes in is that it just happens.
Yeah.
The reality is that it takes diligence and focus and a lot of hard work with no reward in the front. Only guarantees to lose money. Right? But then you're working in a way that most people aren't willing to work. So then you can live in a way that most people can never live. Right? And so my opinion, why I camp out in the results economy and why you camp out is because there is no ceiling.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
I can go and I don't exchange an hour. I exchange an idea and a thought and a product and a service and I go, all right, what can we do? How do we scale this? In one idea with a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. That's what my mentor taught me years ago. So you know the difference between a great idea and a great profitable one? No, I got all these ideas. He's like hard work.
Yeah.
You pick one. You pick a direction. You start hitting it over and over and over and over again. You stop spreading your ideas out. You stop chasing the shiny syndrome, right?
Yep.
And so that's why I'm proud of you. You've stayed consistent. You're like, I'm going to go after this. I'm going to do this. And so, from a guy from the outside looking in, you're wildly successful.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think, the grass is never greener. It's
just grass.
I think it's finding what you enjoy doing, what you're competent at doing, and
it's just grass.
Yeah.
Either way, it's grass.
Still got to work.
Still got to work, man. Still got to chew it, right?
Yeah.
Grass is greener. It's just grass, guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's any. It's just grass.
Right.
But that's pretty funny, actually. On the 3Ds, kind of wrapping this back in, what are some daily actionables that you've created in rhythms in your own life? So you're a disciplined person. Now you have disciplined thought. How has that translated into disciplined actions on a daily?
In the context of just work?
Or life, it's you. We're talking about you. We're getting coffee. It's just friends hanging out.
Yeah, I think, the discipline actions for me are basically what I know I need to produce in at the end of 5 days.
You have so it's 5 day rhythm.
Yeah.
So what walk me through like your 5 day rhythm. What do you do? How do you draw out your 5 days into today?
So I start on Monday. The first thought is, my goal every week is to find, is to get 2 first round interviews with the clients that I'm working with. So to get 2 first round interviews, that means I have to.
You start with a target. You start with a goal.
There's a metric. There's 2 first round interviews each week is the goal.
Okay.
So if I'm starting the week and I'm starting from scratch and I don't have any clients, then I know I'm probably not going to get 2 first round interviews that week. So everything I do is built around finding companies to.
Got to get a client.
Got to get a client.
Yeah.
Got to get a job search. So once you have those, then for me it's a matter of finding them. Working back from 2 first round interviews, which means that I need to send the client probably 4 people total. And in order to send 4 people total, that means I need to probably screen.
How did you
8.
find this rhythm?
It's kind of a standard recruiting metric that was taught to me.
So the whole point is that your discipline action is built into a rhythm system.
Yep.
Right. You begin to process, and you've been how have you tuned that system to your own liking in your own company over the last year?
How have I tuned it?
Yeah, like I dialed it in. How do you tune it up?
That's a moving target for me.
Right?
But
it's all that's why I asked the question.
I think
Curious.
I think starting with if I only measured myself on the projects or the jobs that I filled successfully, there's a lot of time that goes in between. It's hard to measure your success on a weekly basis if you're measuring the end result, and that's it.
So we're working on measuring our success on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Through daily metrics.
Well, I think it's important to get down to that.
You have to.
Yeah.
Like we were just at this scaling up Vern Harnish.
Yeah.
Awesome. I went with Todd actually, and flew Brian out there to Denver. And one of my favorite things was this fighter pilot. She was awesome. I can't remember her name, so if you're ever watching this, I apologize for not. But she said the 1 to 60 rule. Have you heard that rule? Mm-mm. And so I might mess this up. I might miss the calculation off. But she's like, if you're off your target by 1 degree, basically, if you're going like 100 miles an hour, like an hour, you are 60 miles off your target if you just are 1 degree off when you take off. Yeah. And the powerhouse of that, what we're talking about, these daily metrics and these rhythms, these 5 day rhythms, is that you have to be paying attention to your KPIs daily and identify, hey, what is this metric that I need to understand? Because if I'm off by 1 degree, if I'm only reviewing it once a week or once a quarter or once a month, it gets very expensive and I'm 60 miles off my target. Yeah. Right? Instead of so that's why I love that question, because it's like, what are your dailies? What are your, what's your, and every time I talk to a successful entrepreneur, they always have a rhythm, a weekly rhythm that comes down to a daily practice of I got 3 items that I have to hit this day. I have, all these things. I always love hearing people's methodology of applying that principle that they've uncovered and figured out. And maybe some of our younger viewers or our W2ers that are watching in the future, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that it was that. It's just the small incremental movements that then give you great compounded success.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I think the frustration for me without having a metric on a weekly basis at least was I get to the end of the week and I didn't fill a job, right? And that happened weeks on weeks in a row. And it's like, how do I know if I did a good job that week? Well, you don't, because you're not measuring it. You're not measuring anything. So at any rate, I found the right things to measure for me.
Boom.
And that dictates what I do on a daily basis.
So how did you find it? You had to ask the right question.
Well, yeah,
right?
Because I'm a pretty black and white person. Meaning, I like to have clarity and not just wing it. So, my big question to the person I was working with was, what am I supposed to be doing on a daily basis? How are we measuring this? How do I get maybe a little more predictable results? What's the most important thing that I can control? Because in recruiting, you can't, because you're dealing ultimately with a company who probably has 3 or 4 people involved in deciding to make a hire, and then you have the candidates that you're sending over to them. So your outcome is really based on other human beings, and there's a lot you don't have control over, right? You don't have control over the amount of money they're going to offer them. You don't have control over if the person's going to say yes. I mean, I remember the first placement I ever made, the guy's wife or it wasn't a placement, it was the first offer I got, the guy's wife talked him out of it. So you can't control that. So what I can control is, the amount of people, the people that I introduce to my clients, and hopefully, in an ideal scenario, the people I show them are the people they'd be interested in. So when I think about what's important on a weekly basis, it's how many people, if they get interviewed, then I did my job finding the right people, and that's about as much of the process I can control. So
that's awesome, man. So a question. Now you're a member of CRES.
Yep.
We started off. You are the very first member, and you were. I mean, talk about an early adopter. You were drywall dust everywhere, and you were coming here before it was done. And I still have in my phone. You created like a photo. You were so pumped, and like the outdoor wasn't even. I mean, it just looked like an old box. Like none of the. I thought we hardly had furniture. I don't think we had even decor up on the walls. I mean, it just didn't look like anything it looks like right now.
Yeah, you caught me at a really good time because, there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm around launching my own business, and there's a lot of enthusiasm around CBMC Tampa with what we're working towards, and I see this facility and think about my personal work situation plus the opportunity to bring other people here, build a community.
So
right?
why did you join CRES? What was appealing even before? I know why people join at times now. Yeah. It didn't look anything like how it looks right now. There was no one in the building. Right? Why did you join?
Well, I bought into. I agreed with the vision that you had set. That early in the process of building a community of entrepreneurs and people that would be probably people that are dealing with similar challenges in their own line of work or their own business, and being in an environment that had spark and energy, right? I'm coming out of a place of working from home, right? I get out of bed, I go downstairs, and I'm in my office. It's like there's really no separation from life and work, and it was really isolating, right? So I think being a part of CRES would solve for those two things around community and having separation from home. So
so that's why you joined, was just to try to have the practical. I need the separation, I need the third space, the ancillary uses, but also the vision behind it.
Yeah, I can imagine, just like you were talking, the amount of people that are involved, the different people that are in here on a weekly basis, the events, you're really a good community where in a good environment to develop people and give them a place to flourish.
Yeah. What have you gotten out of being a part of this community that you weren't expecting to get out of it, if anything?
Well, I didn't think I'd be on a podcast. I'm a little shy in that regard, but no, I think it's been interesting to see the evolution of this because starting with maybe a handful of people, and then you guys started getting the word out, and I came here to every time I come in, I can always kind of tell the energy level based on the parking lot. Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cars out there today.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was stuff happening, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're in a meeting. There's people down here working. I know that there's a lot of energy here. So, at any rate,
but what have you? So have you not gotten anything that you weren't anticipating to get out of it?
I don't think so. I think for me personally, just I probably underutilized the space more than I anticipated. I thought I'd be here more often, and that's really just been on me of not getting out of my own neighborhood and getting down here. But
so you'd use the space more if it was closer. Obviously.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. So we're working towards
proximity matters. I think I didn't last year this time. I didn't think it would be a big deal at all, but I think I kind of got into my own little I don't want to say safe spot, but I got in a comfort zone, I guess. And I personally kind of isolated myself a little bit, for a while. But, I think I've underutilized it more than I thought I would 12 months ago. But,
yeah.
But every time I am here, it's always, it is a productive time, you know, in terms of the work I get done, but also just being able to talk to all sorts of different people.
It's interesting because like when we're looking at like our peers here, our family, our members, the people that we do daily life with, you know, CRES is still a startup, but we obviously have this big goal and dream in the next 10 years to have a pretty amazing impact on culture and society, and just those that are each, you know, we want to reach 200,000 people, have, you know, in 10 years, right?
Yeah,
And have 150 locations. And I just looked at our second location potentially yesterday. I don't think we're going to go for it, but you know, we're hoping to expand because I'm realizing, like, you know, we're going to take it to the people. And so, you know, kind of my expansion strategy that we want to do, but I'm always learning and trying to learn as much as possible to create the best experience. And the only way you can learn is to fail, right? Over and over and over again. And so with that, obviously we're working on the proximity. That's a portion of growth and scale and, you know, capital, energy, time, all that stuff. And so why are you keeping your membership?
Oh man. Well, I every time I, you know, when I am here, I see the growth. I mean, it's tangible. You know, I think walking in every day when I am here, you know, seeing Travis
Yeah.
or Ryan,
Yeah.
you know, getting a good greeting and a cup of coffee, and then I'm, you know, either going straight to work or stopping and talking to
Yeah.
some other folks. But I stay here because I know that the potential is going to continue to be realized. It's going to continue to grow. I think it's a great, you know, it's a great spot to be a part of, even if it is, you know, 1 or 2 days a week. But
Well, and some people only come like once a month, once every 2 months, once 3 months, right? And it's quite an engaging experience. Like they're like, I just like see the value just to have. And for us, we're just trying to understand, like, I mean, all right, how do we serve people better, get them more engaged? And so that's the kind of like my one of my last questions is, what are we failing at? What can we get better at? How can we serve our people, our members, the entrepreneurial, the creative, the leaders, at a more effective and more efficient way, and our storytelling is getting a little bit better. And I don't know if I shared this with you. So right now, what we do here is we produce and support quality community. So you are not buying into a co-work space. You haven't bought into anything. You know, it is a space that you are here exactly how you're describing it.
Yep.
We're trying to create that quality community for you to make you the best you can be, to be that support group for you, right? As an ecosystem of community. Mm-hmm. And then our promises as an organization, as a space, as a community, is that we promise that you will thrive here, that you'll connect here, and that you'll dream here. Are we doing all right on those promises?
I'd say so. For me, you know, it's good to be around, you know, people with similar stripes, meaning kind of similar attitude and mindset around life, faith, and business, right? Just to be in the environment, whether you're, you know, working together or talking or not, just to be there. I think that's inspiring, right? Being around people like you and just thinking about. I just remember when you told me you were doing this, I was like, how the heck are you pulling this off? Just to buy it and rehab it, just to get it to a point where it was a year ago. So I was impressed and blown away by the possibility that somebody, you know, a peer of mine, you know, with similar thoughts and similar, you know, background could pull that off. So I just wanted to be around it, just to kind of maybe get some of that energy from osmosis or just being in the environment. So, you know, that was a big appeal to me. But I think you're doing well in terms of
hit me right on the face. Like, what are we failing at? How can I?
It's hard to say because you're doing something that's not really. You're doing. I mean, it's not like you can compare it to 3 other franchises in a similar you know, niche category, right? So,
well, yeah, we're front runners in some degree of a brand new industry and space. But I just got to know.
Well, I think the environment is key, and that's. I think it's a welcoming environment and certainly an easy place to get stuff done.
That's where we're winning.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I'm not a very critical person.
I told you before we got in here, like I'm way more critical than myself. But we really want this information, man. We really, because we're gonna take this. I'm gonna bring this to my team, and we're gonna just work on it. Yeah. And that's what I want our viewers and listeners to hear. Is like you have to. Even when it's hard, even when everyone's like cheerleading, oh, you're killing it, find that weed that is just growing in the garden. That one, even if it's 1% from somebody. That's so I'm oppressed a little bit. Like, where am I sucking right now in this endeavor?
This is a tough one, and I know you told me before we started that you were going to ask this, and I've been racking my brain trying to think about it. But
Yeah,
I'm just.
It's hard for you because you've seen it. You've seen such rapid movement and growth.
Yeah. I've seen a ton of growth, so it's hard to say. It's hard to nitpick.
Come on, man.
I wish I had something.
One thing that we could do better. Give me that 1 degree adjustment. Because I'm 60 miles off course right now.
No, you're right on it.
Nah, dude, I'm still 60 miles off. How do we get going? You know, how do we? I'm hungry for criticism.
I think if I can say, in terms of criticism, in an ideal situation, I would have not. Gosh, how do I say this the right way?
As brutal as possible.
Well, there's a season where it was very, I might have been the only person here for first couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So the growth, I think the more people that are here on a regular basis, I think the stronger the magnet.
So we could try to engage people to be here more.
Yeah, but I know that's hard, right? Because if you ask me to be here more, it's like,
What can I do that would intrigue you to be here more?
That's a good question.
Events, services, products.
Yeah, during the workday, it's like you can't really think about doing an event
Outside of the workday.
Yeah.
What can I do that would say, I'm not missing that. I'm going to that, period. I'm going to drive. I'm going to make sure that it's on my calendar a month in advance because that is so valuable to me. What can I do that's like that'll engage you and the other members more?
I think one thing I do miss, in terms of CBMC, this is probably the first year I haven't been in a young professional group. Been kind of trying to work and support CBMC, to work on it versus be a part of it. But I think, there's probably an opportunity here if you had the right mix of 6 to 8 guys to have a similar type of.
Okay.
I'm gonna say mastermind.
Yeah, we can do mastermind. Yeah, you call it a mastermind. So
if there was guys committed that wanted to be there on a monthly basis, I think that would be an interesting thing to.
How much is that worth to somebody? Is that included in a membership? Is that what's it worth to some? Because there's energy and expense that goes into something like that. But I'm all ears, to be honest with you. Yeah. It's in my heart to do it.
I'm not sure from a cost perspective what there would be to charge. I just think if there's some other guys maybe in a similar situation launching a business or 2 years into running their own business.
Got it.
I think it's more just connecting.
Seasonal synergy of connection points.
Connecting some members that would see value in. Maybe
would a networking event do it? Or something a little bit more depth?
I think maybe something quarterly, monthly,
Okay.
Something you can get some rhythm with people.
Take notes on that one.
Yeah. I just think maybe having that type of
yeah, that's great,
more
man.
Entrepreneurial roundtable type meeting.
Got it.
It doesn't have to be long and exhaustive, but something where people can.
So a group of guys would potentially do like a quarterly or monthly roundtable where they come in, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, everyone vote, or in advance we grab. This is like off the cuff. I love these because it just allows us to process. Off the cuff, be like, all right, so we cap it at 8 people. And then, or say 12 people. We cap it at 12 people, and then every month or something, the 12 people get together, and it's one person a month who has to bring up something that they're going through. And then you roundtable that.
Yeah, you could do it.
But they're very specific. They're entrepreneurs. They're specific to season. They're specific to industry. Yeah. I love this. Is a great learn for me of how to keep.
I think it's an opportunity to build community.
To
build tighter bonds within the community in a small group setting.
Well, thank you. We're gonna work on that.
I think it's something that we can continue.
We're gonna work on it, bro. We're gonna work on it. Definitely envision, but obviously, and then we just put a location closer to you.
Yeah, get up in Wesley Chapel, man.
15 minutes from here. So if we were 15 minutes closer to you, would that make a big difference?
Well, then you'd be somewhere near like USF.
Well,
I think New Tampa, Wesley Chapel for sure.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, exactly. So because they got to be so it would be 15 minutes and then 15 minutes.
Yeah, roughly about a half hour away. But
okay, it's great news. I'll work on that.
All right.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of competition up there, and I think there's a ton of people working from home. All these suburbs that are.
It's great. All right. Well, so we're thank you for that 1 degree adjustment and movement. That's awesome. It's huge.
Well, yeah, you're not inventing anything new. You're just kind of taking a roundtable type meeting into your own.
We got a space for it though, so
we do.
Yeah, we got the space for it. It was designed for it. Well, David.
Yep.
Love you, bro.
Love you too.
Thanks
man.
for being our very first member of CRES. It's awesome, man. Your name's gonna go on the wall. Be like, hey, who was the first guy? Oh, David. David was. And so I'm honored. Thank you for investing in this vision, this idea. I'm always blown away when guys invest in my vision that when I'm wacky and crazy and. So I appreciate that.
I love the fact you took this on because this isn't a small thing. Right?
Oh, dude, this has been one of the most stressful experiences because I was living a good life, being like a solopreneur. I love real estate. Talk about freedom, man, that was great. But this was like for me, it was like, how do we like this conversation is just fuel to my soul. Good. To how do I empower a guy who's a young entrepreneur? You just went out on your own, man, and bro, you killed it this first year. Yeah. So I'm very proud of you and. Very honored to have you as a founding member and the first founding member of CRES. So, did you like this podcast?
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's good.
I think I'll stick around.
You stick around. There we go. I always thank you to Ryan for shooting this. He's doing all the editing. He owns his own production company, Simmer. Either way, we'll throw that out there. Again, thanks for tuning in to Let's Get Coffee. I'm Jeremy Vanderloop here at CRES Community. Come visit us online and come visit us in person and be a part of our growth with us. See you guys.